A talent like Mirza Teletovic had his share of suitors, but with his skill set, the Nets are excited that he chose them.
I think he was able to work on his game overseas and played at the highest level. So now he's willing to take his talents, come here, and I think his offense ability, not only just shooting a three, but he can put the ball on the floor. I think he complements Brooke. I think he complements Gerald Wallace. I think his ability to score the basketball in different ways and have been a guy that can do that, come off the bench, will give us an added offensive touch come off the bench and toughness.
Teletovic will be asked to come off the bench, but he's optimistic that his knowledge of the game will allow him to contribute right away.
I mean, I think they understand that I know no basketball because I'm playing for lots of years. And I think like there's a little stuff that I have to adjust to, and I think with the time I'm gonna get adjusted.
From Bosnia to Brooklyn, Teletovic brings a global appeal to an already hyped team.
In Bosnia also, like in my country, people know that Brooklyn and they're trying to follow the NBA. They say stuff's gonna be like to wake up because the games there are like in 3 o'clock in the morning, but people are really excited to see the first game.
If all goes according to plan, Brooklyn may have landed itself a real catch.
I love fishing. Fishing relaxes me a lot. Lets me think, takes me off basketball and lets me think what's the next step to do, what's the best thing to do. I think I'm kind of a relaxed guy. I really focus on basketball. I focus on my job. Try to do it the best as I can. Of course, sometimes it's tough, but you always find the right way to do it.
Just ahead, our Yes analyst Jim Spanarkel joins us for a breakdown of one of the toughest divisions in the league, the Atlantic Division. Stay right where you're at. Welcome back to the Brooklyn Nets preview show. I am Sarah Kustok, and I am joined by a very special guest, Jim Spanarkel, our Yes analyst. Jim, very busy season for the Nets. Not only, though, are they making the move to Brooklyn, but also a revamped roster. What have you seen out of them and what they did this offseason?
Well, I think, Sarah, the first thing that obviously you have to think about is the excitement with Brooklyn. Obviously, going there, a new team going to Brooklyn, the fans are really excited to have the new building. So you start to think about off the court, and it's very, very exciting. Now you start to think, well, what are the Nets going to be like on the floor? Well, you had Joe Johnson and Darren Williams just to start, and I think the first thing that'll come to mind is that Avery Johnson is just ecstatic of having two guys down the stretch who can score. But if you think about the Nets, I think the first part of Avery's philosophy in basketball is to start defensively, and I think overall, with all the changes they've made, they're very, very happy that they have flexibility and they have guys who can play defense. So he wants them to be very, very tough mentally first at the defensive end of the floor.
What do you think about the job Billy King did in putting together depth for this team?
Well, I think if you look in the backcourt with C.J. Watson, for example, he's going to be a guy who can shoot the three. He's going to give Darren Williams the ability to give him some minutes off the floor. But keep in mind, there's another thought process there with Watson. He comes into the game, you can now move Darren Williams to the 2 position. You can move everybody up the line, if you will. You can move Joe Johnson from the 2 to the 3, the small forward position. Sometimes you can move Joe Johnson with his size at 6'7" to the 4 position. So what that all means with what Billy King has done, and I think it's really a terrific job that Billy put together here, when you think about it, you look for flexibility. So if you have, say, a 12-man roster, and let's say you're going to play 8 guys consistently, they really have 8 guys who can play about 11 or 12 positions. So it gives Avery Johnson a lot of those strategic type of moves coming down the stretch. Do I want to go small? Did the other team go small? Did the other team go big? What do I do with Joe Johnson, Darren Williams? A lot of flexibility, a lot of fun from a coaching perspective.
Jim, I know it's a question that has no real answer up to this point, but having been around the game as long as you have, looking at the new guys, the lineup they've put together, how long do you see it taking for these guys to build chemistry, gel together, and be able to play as one unit?
Normally, I would say if we look at the first 5, you would say it would probably take 4 to 6 weeks to get them together. But keep in mind, Brook Lopez was injured, but he's comfortable playing with Darren Williams. I always focus back to who's comfortable with the point guard and how is the point guard going to make guys better. Darren Williams is the leader from back there. Joe Johnson sliding into that 2-guard position should not be that difficult. Both of them are very talented, very unselfish players. They'll work together well. Gerald Wallace, Humphreys, the symmetry will be great there with those guys. So I don't think, other than Joe Johnson really technically being the only new guy, if you will, I don't think it should take long. Now, does that mean they have a winning team right at the get-go? I don't know, but I think there's a better chance of the Nets getting off to a very good start than them not getting off to a good start.
All right, well, the Nets not the only team in the Atlantic Division that were very busy this offseason. Let's talk about their New York counterpart, the Knicks. They have Jeremy Lin gone, Landry Fields gone, but bringing back Carmelo Anthony, Amari Stoudemire, also 5 veterans to the roster.
Right.
What do you see out of the Knicks, and what can you predict for them this season?
I think their fans will probably try to get over the Jeremy Lin thing because that was very exciting around here, and it was a big plus for the New York market. I think that the next thing you have to think about is now Jason Kidd, Raymond Felton coming in and playing the point guard position. Felton can go up or down, right? He's coming off a bad season. Jason Kidd, we know what he's like, and I'm a big Jason Kidd fan. We had the pleasure of watching him with the New Jersey Nets years ago. It was a terrific storyline with Jason Kidd. So he's that leader. I think he'll make them better by default. Then the second question becomes, whose ball is it going to be? Is it Carmelo Anthony or Amari Stoudemire? Whose team is it going to be? I think that's a major question mark with the Knicks, whether or not they can kind of make this a seamless transition and all get along and play competitively, because on paper they have the talent.
What does it do for the New York Knicks having the Nets now in Brooklyn and potentially competing at a greater level for the state of New York, for the league, and just for what type of rivalry they have?
I think it'll be interesting from the standpoint that the Knicks have always, when you think of it, and growing up in Jersey City as a kid, the Knicks were always there with the Walt Fraziers and Dave DeBusches and Bill Bradleys and championship teams. In this area, they have glued that fan base from a Knick perspective. Now there's kind of that new sheriff in town, if you will, with the Brooklyn Nets. But I just think the competition in the New York market will be better for both teams.
All right, well, Boston Celtics, they were a team that came just one game shy of the NBA final last year. They lose Ray Allen, who heads down to Miami, but they still re-signed Kevin Garnett, Rajon Rondo. What do you think they have in their lineup and on the roster in terms of being a legit contender?
I think they've added some pieces. Jason Terry would be one of them. Losing Ray Allen, I think, is big. But, you know, Ray Allen, let's face it, he's starting to get a little old. And they talked about the big three, if you will, right, with Garnett, Pierce, and Ray Allen. And I used to roll my eyes with that one without Rondo being in the big four. So they still have him, who's a dynamic player who can be a terrific leader. I think with the pieces that they've added a little bit in terms of their depth, they'll help with the age of Pierce and Garnett. So I think the role players on the Celtics that they've added, those types of role players will have to play well for the Celtics to kind of weather the storm and get to the later part of the season and keep the legs of the vets very fresh.
All right, let's move to the Philadelphia 76ers. That blockbuster 4-team trade that sent Dwight Howard to LA has Andrew Bynum landing in Philly. What does that do for the Atlantic Division, having a center like that playing for Philly?
With Bynum in Philly, I think the first thing you think about is, can he keep the focus as a young player, not on a long-term contract? That's what they need to do to keep him there from years beyond. Can he mesh with Doug Collins' style of play? It's a young team. Doug does a great job in terms, once again, like Doc Rivers, of meshing his talent. But once again, without Andre Iguodala there, they've lost a key defensive player and a wing player that likes to score. But they do have other guys who can step it up. Holiday's a terrific point guard. Evan Turner is starting to turn that corner a little bit, no pun intended. I think he's getting better and better, and I think if his confidence comes along. But I think what you'll see with the Sixers is a young team last year. Losing Lou Williams doesn't help them because he was a great scorer for them, whether he started a couple or off the bench. But I think you'll see Doug use his experienced players enough and some of the young guys and the young legs on that team to kind of mesh. And Doug's pretty good. He's right up there with the best coaches in the league.
You take a look then at all of those teams and what you have at the Atlantic Division. How do you see the Nets fitting into this division, and what do you think they can do in terms of matchup with these other teams?
If we talk just strictly, with Toronto's in there also, I don't think Toronto, they still have a lot of question marks going on there. But if you look at in this division with the Knicks, Sixers, and Celtics, I don't think it's then we talk about the Nets. I think you got to start to talk about, I think the Celtics are going to be, if they can continue to get the depth to work for them and Pierce and Garnett to play, because I think Rondo's a given. I think because of his age, I think is the way he plays, he's going to be a given every single night. Pierce and Garnett could be some wild cards for them going forward, but I think you have to kind of slide the Nets right in there and be competitive with Philly and with New York in this division. So I would say you have the Celtics right now, but you have a team like the Nets that could be 2. You could have 3 teams that are vying for that second place in the Atlantic.
All right, a look at the Atlantic Division. A big thanks to Jim Spanarkel. We're going to see you throughout the season. We certainly look forward to it, but you don't go anywhere. Coming up, we sit down with the face of the Brooklyn Nets franchise, Deron Williams. We wrap up our preview show of the Nets' inaugural season in Brooklyn by spotlighting the face of the franchise, Deron Williams. Now, since he was acquired from Utah 2 seasons ago, it's been no secret that the organization's hopes ultimately rest on the shoulders of their point guard. Following an offseason of uncertainty in which he had to make one of the most difficult decisions of his life, the 3-time All-Star and 2-time Olympic gold medalist is back, solidifying a revamped backcourt. He's the leader, the guy who his teammates will look to, and the one with the ability to make the big play when the game is on the line.
I actually was pretty close to going to Dallas. Before my meeting with Dallas, I was kind of leading towards going there.
In the end, it all just came down to 2 teams, really. Staying here in Brooklyn or going home to Dallas.
Hello, Brooklyn.
Williams. Oh! Major elevation! Deron Williams!
You can just feel the energy that these fans have, that the organization has for this move, and it's kind of, like a fresh start, a new start, and I'm just excited about this opportunity.
A 3! Deron Williams! Way downtown!
It's night and day from where we were last season. It's good to just have a full season, really. Have a real training camp and have time to come together as a team on and off the court. The things that we didn't have a chance to do last year. We're going to be a lot better team this year, and we know that.
Deron Williams knows that a key to this season is his running mate, Joe Johnson. A versatile shooter who can complement his game makes the backcourt truly formidable.
Joe was on that Atlanta team and, had to do a lot. And he's not going to have to do as much now. You look to the left, you look to the right, you got guys around you. It's a lot better mentality to have going into a game.
I'm just here to take pressure off him so he don't feel like he has to make all the plays. Maybe he can get him some spot-up, wide-open shots every now and then.
Joe can take the pressure off me. We can throw the ball to Gerald and let him go to work. Brooke is going to get a lot of touches, so, I can go back to just finding people. I'm just looking to get everybody involved, and that's more my game.
It's D. Will's unselfishness as a leader that has impressed his teammates and coaches and helped transform the Nets' culture both on and off the court.
Deron with the one-handed bounce pass to Brooks for the finish and the foul.
He's really done a great job. I've seen the texts that he sent out to guys and telling them what time to be at the gym, and he's the first one here and the last one to leave. So the leadership he's shown in the offseason, I think it's because of his growth and maturity in that area, and I welcome it, and I'm really proud of him for growing in that area.
As Deron Williams goes, so do the hopes of his team. His growth and maturity give the Nets every reason to believe he'll lead them straight into the playoffs.
Oh, a killer crossover and the foul.
We definitely want to make the playoffs. That's our first and foremost goal. Key things for us is that everybody's pretty secure right now, and everybody's in the point in their career where they want to win. The timetable on how long it takes, you never know. Hopefully sooner than later.
That'll do it for our preview of the Brooklyn Nets' inaugural season. I'm Sarah Kustok. For all of us here, thanks for watching. It's been a momentous few months for a basketball-crazed borough, but the journey has only just begun. Against great odds and an unwavering commitment to a greater vision, a strong foundation is in place. After all this time, Brooklyn finally has its team. Its gorgeous, brand new arena has the fan base buzzing, hungry to fill its rafters with banners. The franchise has given reason to believe. No longer do the Nets merely hope to make the playoffs. For Brooklyn's team, they believe the title is within reach.